right, hi everybody. My name's Elise Nichols. I'm the coordinator of a local coalition called Speak, and we work towards preventing youth substance use. So today I'm here with Kassandre. Kassandre, will you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Kassandre Alexander. I'm the school health coordinator for the St. Clair County Health Department, and I'm a school nurse at Yale Public Schools.
Thanks for being here, Kassandre. Um, I know we've had a lot of questions about different substances. Obviously, that comes up a lot within the coalition. So today we were just going to kind of run through what are some effects and things that we know about alcohol. So I guess to start off with, what are some of the effects we know of long-term and short-term to alcohol use?
So, alcohol in general is what we call a central nervous system depressant, which that means that it acts as kind of it kind of mutes or dulls the action of the brain and of the nervous system. So, in the short term, you have effects like a slowing down of your reflexes, your reaction time. It also affects your ability to make decisions and think clearly, which is why impulses can be greatly affected by alcohol use. Even a small amount of alcohol can affect your ability to make rational decisions. You might do things while under the influence that you wouldn't do if you were sober. And the more alcohol someone uses, the greater that effect tends to be. So it's dose dependent, as we call that. So a large amount of alcohol, and that will be different for different people. So that's kind of a subjective term, but a large amount of alcohol can dull the reaction time and dull the senses to the point where somebody actually has an altered state of consciousness, which is why some people will black out when they're drunk. Over time, because the body has to process and metabolize and filter out that alcohol, the body sees the alcohol as sort of a toxin. And so the liver is the main organ that's involved in filtering alcohol out. And permanent damage can occur when there's a repeated use of alcohol. So there's a condition called alcoholic fatty liver disease, and there's another condition called cirrhosis of the liver, and that's actually a scarring. There's scar tissue that builds up around the liver. That's permanent and irreversible. Alcohol can also contribute to the different levels of certain nutrients in the body. And probably one of the most dangerous parts of alcohol use is that the body becomes dependent on it, which means if you take the alcohol away suddenly, the body goes into a state of withdrawal. And with alcohol, it's one of those substances where withdrawals can actually be deadly. They can cause seizures, they can cause toxic levels of certain chemicals to build up inside the body. So when somebody who is dependent on alcohol has to come down off of it, has to stop using it, they usually have to do that in a medical setting like a hospital.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of consequences then, possible consequences. And a lot,
Yes.
this leads right into the next question. We see adults around us who might be drinking and they might be casual drinkers.
Mhm.
How would you know, the difference between maybe a casual social drinker and somebody who's having an alcohol problem?
Well, that can be really difficult. That can be very difficult. And part of the reason it's difficult for someone to tell in themselves whether they're having a problem with substance use of any kind, including alcohol, is that the disease of addiction kind of covers up some of our ability to have that self-reflection and that awareness. So what might be, certain behaviors or actions that might be very obvious to the people around us aren't so obvious to the person who's actually experiencing them when they're under the influence of an addiction. So there are some clues that a person might see if they're experiencing an addiction or a substance use problem. One is that they're increasing the frequency of their use, meaning how often they're using or drinking in this case, and the amount. So maybe they were able to drink just on the weekends before, and now they're really drinking 5 days a week or every day. And maybe before they could just 1 or 2 drinks, and now they're drinking 7, 8, 9 drinks or more. Another issue is, what kind of consequences are they starting to see? Are they getting into trouble with the law? Are they drinking and driving? How are their relationships being affected? Are the people around them, especially their close and personal friends and relatives, are they commenting on their alcohol or drug use and saying, I'm worried about you, I'm concerned you're drinking too much? These can be some of those telltale signs that it might be really time to see a professional about their substance use.
Yeah. I know a lot of youth have asked kind of what's the difference between like beer, wine, and liquor? You know, it's all alcohol, but what's the difference between those?
Oh, well, the main difference is the amount of alcohol that's in them. Beer, and I think the beer tends to have somewhere around 6 to 10% alcohol by volume. Wine is a little more than that, closer to 12%. And then liquor can be anywhere from like 40% to like 80% alcohol, which is a lot. And you might have the same volume. So maybe let's say 4 ounces, but one has significantly more alcohol by volume. So the same amount of alcohol in a cup will have a significantly greater effect on the body than if you were drinking another substance with a lower alcohol level. So that's the main difference between the three. Also, those kinds of alcohol are made different ways. So wine and beer might be made with different ingredients that might affect a person's body a little bit differently and have different side effects. Um, and the way that our body metabolizes those can be different for different people as well. Males and females tend to be biologically, male and female tend to have a different response to alcohol. So people who are biologically female tend to have a little bit harder time digesting alcohol and metabolizing it in their body. So they feel the effects of alcohol quicker and for a longer period of time. Biologically female women and younger females are also much more likely to develop some of those permanent long-term problems like cirrhosis, because our bodies just don't metabolize the alcohol the same way as a person who's biologically male.
Wow, interesting. I don't think a lot of folks would realize that or know
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, twice as likely, I believe, actually, for females
Wow.
to develop cirrhosis of the liver.
So Cassandra, if a teen maybe comes to you and says that they're having issues with alcohol, or maybe there's somebody around them, either an adult or a friend who's in the situation, what resources are out there for them?
Good question. So if it's an adolescent who is concerned for themselves as having a substance abuse problem with alcohol or other drugs, they can seek services on their own. So they would want to try and find a mental health professional who can help offer those kinds of services. In Michigan, we have laws that allow people under the age of 18 who are minors and who otherwise would need to have their parents' permission to get certain kinds of services. We actually allow them to seek help for addiction and substance abuse without their parents' consent or knowledge. And this isn't because we want people to lie to their parents, but we do this because otherwise we know that that might be a barrier for some people, that if they thought, oh, they're going to call my parents and they're going to tell them what's going on, they might not seek help at all. And that can have tragic outcomes. So what I would recommend is that they actually, a couple options. One would be to go to someone in the school. A lot of times, if they have like someone like me in their school, a nurse or a social worker or their school counselor, they can go to them and tell them what's going on and ask them if they have any references, phone numbers, or if even maybe they can help make some phone calls where they could go to get some substance abuse counseling. The best thing is to not do nothing. So we don't want them to just think that they can do this all up by themselves, to think that this is just going to go away on its own. We don't want to wait for this to become a tragic outcome. We want someone to get help as quickly as possible because, like with other illnesses, the sooner someone gets help, the better. If it's a loved one, a family, a friend, I always recommend, and this is true for any concern someone has as an adolescent who has a concern about an adult, is to find another adult, someone who also has a connection to that person. So if this is mom or dad, maybe go to grandma or grandpa. If it's a sibling, they can go to mom and dad, somebody who has a connection to that person as well and express the concerns. We don't always know what's going on inside the home. So if this is someone's parents, sometimes it's important to bring another person in, a loved one who also has a connection and a love for that person who will want to help. If it's a really bad situation where there's abuse or someone is not being taken care of, or the person is afraid that that loved one may hurt themselves or hurt someone else, then they should go to an adult within their school, their principal, their school counselor, or if it's an emergency, they can call 911, or they can call the crisis text line at 741-741, which can help provide them some guidance if it's a life threatening, if the person is threatening to hurt themselves or threatening to hurt other people.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all that really good information. We appreciate your time today. And for folks
No
watching,
problem.
thank you. For folks watching, if you have any questions for us, just let us know. You can DM us. But without further ado, thank you.